Welcome back to sunny Sydney. Mark Pougatch is the guest on the Sport Chippers YouTube channel today. My first boss in the media, but also more importantly, the face of ITV football over the past few years, trying to keep the likes of Roy Keane, Ian Wright, etc. in order for England games. He's got plenty to tell you about his time in broadcasting and also a few tips as well on how to get in. Also a bit more about Roy Keane and how he used to watch Forest pretty regularly as well. All of that on the way with Mark Pougatch next. Well, Mark, it's great to see you again. We've bridged the time difference, so it's in the evening out here and in the morning out there. Most people will know you not as the main presenter on BBC Essex, sadly, anymore.
Not unless they're really old like you and me.
Correct. But as the main presenter really on ITV Sport for England football matches, how much fun is that to do? How much pressure does that put you under?
Oh, it's great fun, but I think I'm sure you say the same thing. I decided right at the beginning of my career, if it wasn't going to be fun, don't do it. So there was no point doing something which wasn't fun. So it's great fun. All the pressure's self-inflicted, really, because you know the responsibility, the big matches you're presenting to people, particularly when it comes to England, and therefore you've got people watching who wouldn't normally watch football. So you've got that. Both my sisters married Chelsea fans, but they wouldn't watch football. But I know they're watching a big England match, nothing to do with their brother. The fact it's a big England match. And so, I know I've got the responsibility that I'm talking to people like that and bringing everybody into the tent, as it were, who wouldn't normally be there. So I think any pressure on that side is self-inflicted, really.
It's so difficult, I would think, to get that balance right between broadcasting to people who probably watch football every couple of years, maybe watch England in the Euros and a World Cup, and then the kind of wider football audience who knows all the rules, the formations and the tactics and everything. How do you judge that, and how do you try and get that right?
I don't think you can decide in advance how you're going to do that. I literally think you have to feel your way through it. And if people think, well, what on earth does that mean? I'll give you an example. Last Northern Hemisphere summer, we had the Euros. Obviously, England did really well. Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline was a bit of the anthem. And at one stage, certainly during the final, but I think during the semi-final as well, the crowd was singing it so loudly that I just said to the others, Roy Keane and Wright, just going to hush for a second here. 5-10 seconds, let the crowd sing it. It's little things like that, do you know what I mean? Which I think just make it a very much a sort of collegiate community feel. And in the final, actually, I could hear that the chorus was coming, and I knew Wrighty liked singing it. So I shut up and let him sing it for a little bit. And I think it's just little things like that where, there is inevitably going to be a bit of football chat. I mean, what I mean by that is a bit of, why are England playing three at the back and why is he playing left wing? But at the same time, there can still be some broad brush strokes, which are certainly not patronising, because you do not want to patronise, my friends who know everything, my son who knows everything about football. I'm not going to patronise them. But it's still completely valid to say to Gary Neville, as I did on the day of the final, you won everything with Manchester United, everything there is to win at club level. But were you to win, or were the England players to win this, how much bigger is that than winning for your club? And he gave a really good answer about, it's stratospheric, it's a completely different galaxy. So those would be the examples I would say where there is an opportunity to make it a bit broader without patronising those who know what they're watching, but bring everybody, again, as I said, inside the tent. So but you can't plan that in advance, really. You have to feel your way through that. And that only comes, to be honest, with experience, with air miles, with knowledge of what you're doing, and an understanding of how a program unfolds.
And do you feel, is there a point when you're maybe not at the moment when you're talking, but maybe there's a moment where you subconsciously switch off when the pundits are talking and you think, my goodness, there are probably 20, 25 million people watching this. I better not get this wrong.
No, I do that beforehand, to be honest, Chippers. Right. I have to do that before. I have to do that in the morning. I think the best analogy is I often say to the players, when you're walking out to play in the Euro final, you think about your mum who took you to under sixes and your granddad who made you a hot chocolate and gave you a bit of fudge afterwards or whatever. And they're all like, if we did that, we wouldn't be able to play because, the emotion would be too much. We've got to have our work head on. And I think I'm the same. I think about all that in the morning, where we were at BBC Essex and going to Layer Road on a Friday night, excuse me, and Roots Hall and all that. But actually come back, you can do all that. But come match day, this is my job. I've got to get my head on. Oh, don't get me wrong. I do think, just before we go on air, try not to cock this up. There's a good boy, But in terms of when we're on air, it's my job, and you've got to be complete. I'm really focused on what I'm doing. I just want it to be fun. I want it to be inclusive, but I do look around and go. I more look around Wembley and go, what an atmosphere this is here, rather than how many people are home. You know that. In a sense, you know that because I know that as a kid. I know that from 1982 and 1986 and 1990. And I know that because at Euro 96, I was working in our industry and I was at Wembley, but as a fan. So I know what's going on because I've been the fan as well.
Do you still get nervous?
A little bit, I think, and that's good. That's good. I'm quite the opposite to. I think if you said to anybody who's about to do a big presentation, open the batting for England, Christ, I'm sure perform serious surgery on somebody. Nerves focuses the mind. I've always felt that nerves gives you adrenaline, and adrenaline focuses the mind. Adrenaline is the best drug there is. It really makes you concentrate. So a little bit. Fun enough, I'm a bit more concerned if I'm not nervous at all. Almost have to sort of metaphorically slap myself around the face. So a little bit nervous, and that's a good thing.
So who were your heroes growing up? You mentioned Euro 96 and, World Cup. So were you of the kind of Des Lynam school and like myself who looked at him and was just in awe, or were there other people that you viewed as heroes?
I mean, all of those you mentioned, absolutely, absolutely all of them. And I love Brian Moore. Football Brian Moore, nothing wrong with hooker Brian Moore, by the way, nice man. But football Brian Moore, because the man commentated and presented and interviewed and reported, and that was just an incredible job. I didn't meet Brian. I don't think I ever met Brian Moore, which is a shame, but I thought he was incredibly good at his job and obviously very modest. But I've always, and I still do to this day, watch and listen to, as not just in sport, as many people as I can, because you're never too old to learn and go and take something from all of them, really. Take something from absolutely all of them about the way they do an introduction. I know little things. Des Lynam always said, say with us this evening. Don't say with me this evening. Just tiny little things like that, because it's all of us. They're not with me. They're with all of us watching. So just tiny little things like that. And I still do that today. Watch people, listen people. This is the advice I give people coming into the industry. What do you like? What don't you like? What do you think about the way they approach that? Because you'll all, even now, you'll pick something up. So for me, in terms of sort of heroes, they were all heroes really, because I was watching and listening to everything that I could on radio and TV.
When you go to a sporting event, and you mentioned, Euro 96 as a fan, and I've seen you at Forest matches with your son, who I think is a Forest fan, isn't he? Is that from university or something, or how did that happen?
He's definitely got Forest leanings, but he's now in London, so it's a bit different. But no, I've got a friend in the next door village who's a Forest fan, so when he was small used to take him, but he's grown up and living in London now. But I love going to a game not as a fan.
You mentioned the pundits as well earlier, and obviously Forest supporters who will watch this channel quite a bit will know about Roy Keane, a little bit about Ian Wright, who had a spell at the club, but mainly Keane. What's he like to deal with? Is he as ferocious and as intimidating as he comes across?
No, he's brilliant, Roy. He's brilliant. My reading of it always is, I've never asked him this, but my reading of it always is that Roy's the ultimate professional as a footballer. Roy would win the league title, and as far as I could work out, next morning at the latest, was thinking about winning the next one. He's completely professional. And I think one thing that I feel that I must always be is be totally professional. When we're on air, obviously off air, you can have fun, off air, it's great. But we're on air, and I like to make sure that the guys and girls know where I want to go, what I'm going to ask. I don't want to prepare them, but I do want to tell them first question is going to be about this, then they know where we're going. And after that, we'll take it from there. But I think he's completely professional. And I think that's why he reacts to Harry Maguire as he did the other day, because he's thinking, you've been really bad for Man United. Why are you suddenly cupping your ears at Wembley when you score a goal against, pretty much a part-time team, as it were? But he's very generous, extremely funny. He's one of the funniest people you will ever meet. And he is box office. I mean, there was a big interview with him in the Sunday Times at the weekend. We had an ITV do the other day, not sport do, a whole ITV do, which he came to. And of course, his absolute him and Wrighty there are complete magnets for people. He's and he is total box office when it comes to TV because, he's got a chest full of medals and he won consistently and he played to the highest level. I'm sure there was a bit of controversy. Everyone knows what that is with Ireland and so forth that went with him. But he's fantastic to work with. Fantastic to work. And he loved Forest. He was telling me the other day, this was in the Sunday Times interview, that he went home to Cork and his mum got a load of stuff out of the loft. I think he said, "Have you got any of my stuff in the loft?" And she brought it down and few medals and early shirts and his Forest Cup final shirt, which he was quite, when he was telling me, he was almost quite moved that she had his Forest Cup final shirt from there.
Yeah, which is good because you get the impression he's a real football man, if you like, and for all the kind of bravado and intimidation as I just described it, deep down he just loves football and kind of gave everything to be at the level he got to.
He also said that the 3 years in West Bridgford were amongst the best 3 years of his life. There you go. Yeah. I mean, West Bridgford loads of times. It's a brilliant place. I could see that.
I used to live there, Pougatch.
Yeah. Well, they were. Yeah. He told me that in his day, his Forest day, I mean, I'm sure you know this, that they would obviously play the game and then they would all go and have a drink in the Trent Bridge Inn. Is it called the TBI?
That's right. Yeah.
They'd all go to the TBI. He said it was great fun. Obviously this is, as we all know, this is early 90s. It was a bit easier then, players and fans mixing, and obviously the TBI is corner kick away, isn't it, from the city ground? So he speaks extremely fondly, and obviously, to play for Brian Clough, wow. I mean, that's just something else, isn't it?
As a presenter, do you feel you have to get on with the pundits, whether that's Keane or Wright or whoever it might be, Gary Neville? Do you feel you have to have, perhaps this is a different question, but a relationship with them?
Well, I have to make them comfortable. The great Graham Norton always said, his job as a presenter is to be a waiter, which therefore is to present his guests to the audience in the best possible way and the best possible light, so he would get the most out of them. So that's what my job is. If you get on with them as a result of that, that's great. But the first point is to make them comfortable, to make them relaxed, so that they give of the best of themselves and to the audience, which obviously in terms of their football punditry and their football knowledge. So that's the starting point. And obviously the more you work with people, the more you know them, the more you get to know what each other's like, and you can have some fun about where people's sense of humour lies. But that has to be the starting point. And some people are very nervous when they come in. And you have to work on them quite a lot, which is fine. Of course, it's television; it's brand new. It doesn't matter the fact they've been very good at football doesn't mean they're going to be very good at television necessarily. So you have to work on them. But that has to be the starting point, that I make them feel very relaxed, tell them what I want from them, always refer to their playing careers. That's what we want to hear. That's why they're there. I said to them, this is not a place to be shy. I love it. I say it to Wrighty. I said, if we're at the FA Cup, this is not a place to be shy. He goes, don't worry, I scored 4 goals in the FA Cup final. Or, Roy played the World Cup in 1994. I said to him the other night, what's it like to qualify for the World? Wrighty's actually qualified for the World Cup, of course, in 98, got injured before they got there. What's it like? This is not a place to be shy. You and I haven't qualified for the World Cup. Haven't scored in the cup final. Tell us. And
that's the insight. That's why they're employed, isn't it?
Because that's why they're there.
And that's what you want to hear.
I mean, you joke about it outside of work, but if when you're on the television, for you to start a sentence, when I played in the FA Cup final, yes, that's how I want you to start a sentence. When I tackled Maradona or whatever it is.
How easy or difficult did you find the transition from your radio career? We touched on BBC Essex, but perhaps you had an even bigger audience, I don't know, at 5 Live nationally. It is entirely possible. But how did you make that jump? Because they're very different mediums. I know they have some similar skills and some similarities, but the jump from radio into television.
Yeah, well, the good thing for me was I was doing a lot of television. Before I got the ITV job, I was doing a lot of television anyway, because I've done every Monday for the last 10 years for the World Channel, basically, which you'd see in Australia, you'd see anywhere. So I was doing quite a lot of television anyway. I think it's easy. I actually think it's easier to go from radio to TV than TV for radio, simply because of the amount of time. The amount of times I had a pen stuck behind my ear, standing on the touchline wherever, and we had 2 hours till kickoff. You need to have quite a lot up here and quite a lot of knowledge to know to fill, to ask questions, to be across everything, not just football, loads of other sports. To go from that to, especially on commercial television, where you've got to hit the advert breaks because we all need our mortgage paid. To go from that to, a series of 5 or 6 minute segments was much easier. Obviously, you've got to get used to the camera bit, but you can't fast forward that. That's simply practice. And I always say this to people: that is simply practice, and therefore you need editors and bosses who go, okay, they might take them a bit of time to get up to speed and a little bit nervous, but they'll get there. You need people of foresight. But in terms of actually the 5 or 6 minutes, well, having done 2 hours, it's just a question of being editorially really sharp when it comes to the 5 or 6 minutes. You need to know what you've got to ask, and every word counts, and you've got to get on with it.
There is more to come from Mark Pougatch in a moment, how he made a success of his career, and he'll tell you more about sports presenting and give you a few tips as well if you want to get into the industry. Thank you for all of your likes and subscriptions. If you do like the video, give it a like. It spreads it to more people and helps me out enormously. I'd be very much in your gratitude. And subscribe as well to the channel if you've not done so already. Nearly 3,000 of you have done so far, which is fantastic. We can always make room for more, and you'll see more and more videos over the coming months, and also mean that you'll see videos with the likes of, let's think, Andy Reid, Gary Brazil, David Johnson, Colin Fray, Joe Worrell, Martin Fisher. There's plenty that will come up on your feed, and you'll be able to look back at back episodes on the channel as well. So give it a like, give it a subscribe. You might also want to become a member of Chippers Club, which gives you access to the videos early and also the full version of them as well. Get involved with monthly Q&As, live Q&As, and also I'll give you a mention on the channel as well with the videos as well, which is what I'm about to do for this week's Gold members. And they are Philip Sheldon, Chris Annable, Paul Harrison, Christian Tonnies, Perry, James Sorden, Thomas Newton and Mark German. Thank you for your continuing support of the channel. It makes a difference going forward. It means we can do more and more of these interviews and as I say, get better equipment, things like that, and we'll be able to make them look even better. So thank you for your continued support. If you want to become a member, I'll pop a link in the description below and you can sign up. It is very, very cheap indeed. So have a look, and I'd love you to become a member of Chippers Club. Let's get back though to Mark Pougatch. How harsh is television? How much criticism is there? Do you come off air and somebody says to you, that was really good, but bang, that wasn't quite right, and give you a critique, or is it generally just go along with the flow?
Oh no, well that's fine. I mean, it's harsh. It's harsh thanks to these little boys. But but that's fine. But to be honest with you, that's harsh.
I meant from your bosses, really.
Yeah, sure. So, but I want to know. I actually want to know. I genuinely want to know. I don't want to be told. I'm not that sort of person who goes looking for a compliment. I don't like those sorts of people. But tell me what I could do better. Simple as that. And if you think I haven't done something well enough, and we can do it better next time, tell me. I've got no problem with that. I'm a grown up. I'm 53. It's the only way I'm going to learn. It's the only way I'm going to learn. Do you know what I mean? So tell me that.
You mentioned the telephones. How do you deal with that? Because you were on Twitter. I think you were on Facebook.
Yeah.
Possibly Insta as well.
I have a Facebook account, but I don't use it, to be honest. But I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My friend Kelly Cates, she didn't actually tell me, but I saw that she did it on Twitter. I changed the settings. To be honest with you, I changed the settings, which is a shame in a way, because it's quite nice to get a full range of opinion. But in the end, I don't need to be told by a 14-year-old from, the back of beyond that I'm an idiot. Do you know what? I really don't, just because they can. It's just, and by the same token, you don't need to be told you're the next Des Lynam, because that's no good for you either. I just think you just need to take the feedback from people that I really, that I like and appreciate and admire. They're the ones. So it does slightly mean you have to live in an echo chamber, just a tiny bit, but I don't mind. It can get a bit, I've got pretty tough, thick skin, but it can get a bit exhausting. Do you know what I mean? Why did you ask that? Oh, you hate us. There's a little bit once. You hate us. Why did you ask that? You're not as good as you think you are. I just thought, actually, I don't need this crap. No one needs this crap. You know what I mean? No one needs it. Just change the settings.
So that stops you seeing it, does it? When you say change the settings, that stops.
it basically means I think it means you only really get the mentions from people that you follow back.
Right.
So hence why I say it means you live in a slight echo chamber. But it's just better. It's better for the soul, to be honest, Chippers. It really is. I've got a million things to worry about, and if somebody thinks I'm not doing a great job, I'd rather my boss tell me, my producer, my wife say to me, "You look, what do you say that for? You looked a bit odd," or whatever, or somebody I work with or know, rather than some anonymous troll in their mum's bedroom. To be blunt, and I think that goes for all of us. I think that goes for all of us.
I wish I'd found that setting 5 or 6 years ago. But
yeah. No. Well, I'll send it to you. The only shame is I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I'm about to launch with a very old friend of yours and mine, Jonathan Overend, a week today, a cricket podcast. And it's about the Ashes. So I hope people in Australia will listen to it. It's about the 86-87 Ashes. And we're starting all the publicity today. It would be quite nice, actually, to be able to gauge the react. And of course, I could take the settings off temporarily. It'd be nice to gauge the reacting from Australia. People in Australia who may follow me or whatever, who may be into it. So that is the downside. You can't quite get a feel of, the whole round about how much people are interested in something.
Social media has certainly changed so much. When we started out, there wasn't social media. I wonder, apart from that, how much has the job changed from when we started? Well, you started before me at BBC Essex, but I'd have got there in, I don't know, 94, 95, 93 perhaps, somewhere around
I
early 90s. I
was still there in
anyway.
93, yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been early 90s. How much has the job, or being a sports presenter, a sports journalist, how much has that changed in that time?
I don't think it's changed particularly. I don't think it's changed particularly. This, but I think loads of places, people obsessed by sport. They love sport. It's their release. It's their weekend. It's their weekend, something to look forward to. I think probably sport's gone up the running order, as it were. I mean, football's much bigger now. So 93 was the first year of the Premier League, wasn't it? I mean, the Premier League is massive now, absolutely massive. So I don't think it's changed. I don't think it's changed much in that sense. Where it definitely hasn't changed, this will make you laugh because you know this, is I always say I'm a journalist first and a sports journalist second. Tim Paine's just lost the captaincy in Australia, where you live now. That's a news story. That's not a sports story. That's a news story. And I certainly still found at radio, sometimes sort of news people would come wander down the corridor and go, "Oh, what's going on here?" I go, "Well, the England manager's been sacked. That's a massive story." So I know when the Chancellor of the Exchequer's been sacked. And by the way, I know what his name is or her name is. But I still find quite often news journalists go, "Oh, it's sport. We don't know anything about it." No, this is a news story. What's going on in, qualifying for the World Cup, or what's going on in Qatar next year with everything that's going around Qatar, of course. These are news stories. So, sport is as much part of the news as any other walk of life. So I still find there's that battle sometimes to say to news journalists, this is really important. And a couple of times I do get a call. I get a call from news journalists go, "God, crikey, can you fill me in on this? What's going on? What's all this 100 everyone's talking about? What's that? Is that important? Do I need to know about that?" And I go, "Yeah, you need to know about it because it's this, and this, which is part of the news agenda."
You spent a lot of time at Five Live doing kind of all the big sporting events, the Open Golf, the Ryder Cup, Wimbledon, all sorts of things. How much did you enjoy that? And how much did you enjoy the kind of doing different things other than, Premier League football, which is, for most sports journalists is a big percentage of their work?
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And early in my career, I wondered whether I wanted to be a football commentator, and I love commentating, but I just didn't want to just narrow, in my 30s, I just didn't want to go down a narrow tunnel of just football commentary, because much as I love football, too much of a good thing, yada, yada. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I went to Sydney, I went to 4 or 5 Olympics. First one I went to summer was Sydney, which was an incredible experience because I knew Sydney well because I'd lived there as an 18-year-old. I was brilliant. I mean, it was absolutely off the scale. And I feel incredibly lucky and proud to have done all that with some great people who are still great friends from Five Live, to do the Ryder Cup and the Olympics and world boxing and the Open Golf and Commonwealth Games were brilliant and all that. I mean, incredibly privileged, really, Chip. I was incredibly privileged to have done all that. And Five Live were brilliant to us then. I'm sure they still are now, but they wanted to do it. They knew that people tuned in. They knew we'd have huge audiences so to do all those things was amazing. It was properly amazing to go to America for the Ryder Cup, go to Sydney for the Olympic. I mean, I went to Australia 3 times for the Ashes. England got humped twice, but anyway, they were great trips. Amazingly privileged to have done that. Really, really privileged. I can't emphasize enough that was amazing.
Was there a moment where you thought, I cannot believe I'm here? I mean, I always looked at it and I went to the Open Golf as a spectator to watch a few, probably 4 or 5 times, and see the Five Live team, whoever it is, whether it was yourself or whoever, kind of strolling inside the ropes. And I always thought that would be fantastic. That was kind of my dream to do that. Was there any kind of pinch yourself moment where you thought, I cannot believe I'm here broadcasting?
Yeah, there was a bit. It was golf actually. It wasn't quite. I can't pinch myself, but it was the Ryder Cup. It was the first one I did. I think I did 5 Ryder Cups in Brookline in 1999. It was actually got a bit nasty as they did towards them. The Americans had amazing comeback on the last day and won. And it was a beautiful afternoon. And I was following Podrick Harrington, I think it was. And I remember thinking really clearly. It was a lovely day. It was incredibly exciting golf. I was really enjoying the work. And I remember thinking to myself, this is why I'm doing this job. Whether people think I'm good at it or not, it's for them to decide. That's not my concern now, because I'm doing the best job I possibly can. But this is absolutely why I'm doing this job. This is completely encapsulates my reason as a little boy deciding this is what I wanted to do. And that was, that's a reassuring moment. As I say, it doesn't mean to say you're any good. It doesn't mean to say you're going to keep the job. And it doesn't mean to say that other people are going to say you're any good at the job. But it was one of those, yep, this is why I'm doing it. And I just remember thinking then, just give it your best shot, as you are, but just give it your carry on. That's all I've ever felt, Chippers. Give it your best shot. Give it everything you've got. And it's not always going to work out your way. And in our business, that's most of the time, it's nothing to do with how good you are, by the way. Most of the time, if it doesn't work out, it's not because you're any good or not, because if you weren't any good, you wouldn't have been there in the first place. It's just trends and things change and bosses change, and you've had a go at this, and then somebody wants to have a go at that. So that's quite often, it's quite useful for people coming into the industry to know as well. You won't get to a certain stage if you aren't any good, so you'd have been flushed out by then anyway. But after that, it's a completely subjective business. You've got basically one person making the decision. Yep, we like him, we don't like you, and they can go. The next person can completely reverse that decision. So that sunny day in Boston, I was just giving it my best shot, loving it. It summed up why I wanted to do it, and I thought, well, let's just keep doing this and see where it takes us.
I was going to wrap things up by just asking about advice really for young people. So, I walked into the office to see you as the sports editor of BBC Essex, as what a young, probably 19, 20-year-old. Undoubtedly, you gave me some great advice. What advice would you give if a young Chippers walked into your office today? What would you say?
It would be the same advice.
The do's and don'ts?
The same advice. Well, the do's are, if you want to be a sports broadcaster, know your stuff. Absolutely know your stuff. And if you just want to be a football presenter, that's great. But know your sport. Don't just know. Try not just to know one sport, because that will limit you. Do not tell me you don't know something because you weren't born. I wasn't born in 1966. I don't know what happened. I always say this. I wasn't around when Henry VIII was alive, but I know how many damn wives he had. Know your stuff. Don't tell me, because you're going to be on air. You're going to be on air when somebody really famous, sadly, we're losing a lot of the 1966 team. I was on air when Martin Peters died. I knew straight away Martin Peters. At one stage, Martin Peters was about to score the winning goal in the World Cup final. Yeah, until the late equaliser. You've got to know all this stuff. Don't say to me, well, I don't know, I wasn't alive. I don't know who Lester Piggott is. I don't know who, so-and-so is. You need to know it. Jackie Stewart. You need to know these things. So know your stuff. Know your brief. Watch a lot and listen a lot, as I said earlier. So you'll take stuff from people. Why do they do it that way? I like the way they did that. Why did they say that? How did they interview people like that? You can never ever stop. You can never ever stop learning. It's a great fun business, but it's really antisocial. You need to be able to say to your other halves, your family, I can't come out that night. I've got to go to work. Sorry, I can't come to so-and-so's wedding because I've got to go to this match. No, can't go on holiday then because the football season starts. You know, you have to be extremely understanding and kind. You know, I've got an amazing wife. She's put up with me for over 25 years of doing this. I'm going, no, she said to me last night, when can we go on holiday this year? She actually just said, just tell me when the football season ends. When can we go away? She says it's fine. You know, just tell me. My kids are quite grown up now. They know this. You have to have very understanding people. So you have to be able to put up with that. If you can't give up Johnny's party because you've got to go to a game, it's not your job. You know, you've got to work damn hard. You've got to get used to traveling a lot. People say to me, what's the most important characteristic for your job? And they get surprised when I tell them, stamina, chippers. You got to have stamina. You've got to get home from Man United at 2 a.m. and get up at 7 the next 5 hours later and go off to work again. You know, you've got to have stamina. You've got to be able to do it. It's a great job, and I know people might say, well, anything you've said, Mike, you can say about any job. Fine, you probably could, but you really need it for this job. And actually, I tell you something. This is obviously not for 20-year-olds, but for you and me now, this is really important. And I've realised this. You need to stay relevant. And it's no good me going, oh, well, that's what, you know, what's TikTok or what's this or what's that? You need to stay relevant. This is how people are consuming stuff, how they're getting their information. I'm not saying you have to make TikTok videos, but, you know, you have to know this is how people are accessing their information these days and not go, oh, what's all, you know, look like some sort of, you know, colonel from the Raj. What's all this TikTok stuff? You know, you have to know it, don't you? So you've got to stay relevant, because longevity is a tough thing in this bit, a tough thing to maintain in this business, to stay relevant and to have some longevity. And the last thing I'd say, sorry, it's a very long answer, but I think this is a really important thing. There's no mystique about this job. People say, oh, how do we do? I said, listen, I start at the bottom. You know, you and I start at the bottom, literally. You know,
following Southend, it doesn't get lower than that.
So, yeah. You know, I start at the bottom. You know, okay, if you played for England, it'll give you a leg up. I'm not being facetious. It will do. That's fine. If you're an international sportsman or woman, you will get a leg up. That's fine. But most people aren't. We'll start at the bottom. There's no mystique. I did it. You did it. I always say to people, there's no reason why you can't do it. You've got to work damn hard. You've got to hang in there. You've got to take a few blows. But it's perfectly possible. It's absolutely perfectly possible.
I'm just disappointed as we wrap things up that you didn't mention going to watch Gabriel Batistuta play against Southend.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was a career highlight.
Well, do you know, that was my first trip abroad. Yeah, it was my first trip abroad. That was brilliant. So for people who go, what's he talking? Anglo-Italian Cup, which they brought back for whatever reason. Southend played in Florence, and it was incredible. That was incredible. Alison Moyet was on our plane.
Right.
Alison Moyet was at the front of the plane. And
she's a big Southend fan, yeah.
Florence, we're looking at Florence in the morning. It was beautiful. I thought, this is amazing. It took me till half time to get the ISDN to work because they hadn't been booked. It was Italian, so I think I don't know what I had to do. And yeah, Gabriel Batistuta, Argentina's great centre forward, scored a hat-trick against Graham Bressington. And then Batistuta sort of wandered off as if to say, I played in the World Cup. What am I doing? But Barry Fry was great fun. Barry Fry. I had Colin Murphy, Barry Fry, and Roy McDonough as my managers. What a laugh they were.
We could go on for hours. Pougatch, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Looking forward to the Ashes. Will it stop raining? Our batsmen need some practice.
It's not stopped raining for weeks here at the moment. So
a friend of mine in Sydney,
Jimmy Anderson.
A friend of mine who lives in Sydney, not far from you, Mandy, tells me that you've got El Nino this summer. You've got a wet summer.
Yes. So Jimmy Anderson is off his long run. He's going to be all right.
Good. I'm looking forward to that. Excellent, Chip. It's good to catch up.
And you, mate. Take care.